Bendiciones de Yeshua HaMashiach para todos. Es importante los tiempos en los que estamos viviendo y básicamente la intención de este video es poder dar un espacio en español a las noticias que salen de una de las dos partes involucradas en este conflicto, es el caso de Israel. Hemos visto mucho engaño a través de los medios, de las noticias y de una agenda oscura eh, en contra del Estado de Israel. Es así que la intención de este video es poder colaborar, dar un granito de arena para que todo el mundo creyente, el mundo activamente creyente, que lee las escrituras, que entiende los tiempos, que se preocupa por la profecía, pueda tener noticias desde la perspectiva del otro lado del conflicto, desde el origen de los hechos. Entonces espero realmente que esto sirva y le aliente a tomar sabias decisiones, porque este tiempo es de decisiones y es importante saber de qué lado se está. Entonces, no siendo más, los dejo con el video que a continuación voy a poner del canal TVN de Israel.
It was a sunny morning. It was also the Jewish high holiday of Simchat Torah, the Feast of Tabernacles. The girls and our little baby boy woke me and my wife up early that day, and we were having a lazy morning at home. At around 6:30 in the morning, sirens started blaring throughout the country, warning us that rockets were falling inside Israeli territory. This wasn't just the usual barrage of rockets that we were used seeing every few years. These were thousands of rockets that were fired from the Gaza Strip and aimed at the Tel Aviv metropolis and all the way up the coast from there. From that moment, my reality and that of every Israeli citizen changed forever. I'm Yair Pinto, and this is My State, a program about current events, my belief in God, and my journey in the Holy Land. And by the way, behind me, that's the Gaza Strip. On October 7th, this road that you see right here next to me was packed with Hamas terrorists that opened fire towards any Israeli vehicle they saw. Just imagine the scene. Kids, children that were here at the music festival were running left and right, seeking shelter in bushes, in trees, and trying to escape and survive. About half an hour later, the media began reporting incidents of terrorists infiltrating settlements, kibbutzim, and cities in the western Negev. And the IDF press office started confirming reports of hostages and prisoners of war taken captive by Hamas. That same evening, the IDF had already begun mobilizing the reserves, me included. I kissed my family goodbye, put on my uniform, and left for the base. On the way, I heard the President of the United States, Joe Biden, on the radio, making a special statement that warned all the neighboring countries of the region not to join in the attack against Israel. That evening, the Israeli government announced that we are at war to bring about the destruction of the government and military capabilities of Hamas. The IDF press office released a statement saying that this is the biggest terrorist incident experienced by the State of Israel ever. According to the estimates, the terrorists attacked 20 communities and 11 IDF bases. So here I am today, 6 months later. I'm standing in Kfar Aza. This is one of many ground zeros. There are still no words. More than 70 people were massacred, including babies, children, and the elderly. And 18 were taken hostage to the Gaza Strip. And this is just in Kfar Aza, just in this kibbutz. Now let's pivot a bit and talk about the overall strategy and progression of the war. There were 4 main stages. The first stage was ensuring that all terrorists who had infiltrated Israel on October 7th were caught. From there, the Air Force took over and executed long-range attacks by air over a period of a number of weeks. The goal of this stage was to prepare the area for forces to enter the Gaza Strip on the ground. Strategically speaking, an army doesn't invade a territory from the ground before attacking by air. Otherwise, there would be countless places for snipers to hide and enemy units to ambush the forces. And then it came. I was on my way back to the base one day. I was driving alone when I received a call from my commanding officer. Get your gear ready and prepare to go to Khan Yunis, inside the Gaza Strip. My first thought was, how am I going to tell this to my wife? I stopped the car for a moment on the side of the road and prayed. I prayed that if this is from God, He will give me peace. And the next day, I was inside Khan Yunis, in the heart of the Gaza Strip. Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the maneuver was to damage the command and control capabilities of Hamas and its military bases, those below and those above the ground. That was why the focus was on attacking Hamas's factories for creating weapons, command headquarters, and anything that allowed Hamas to function as a terrorist army. There was no advance warning of anything that happened on October 7th. So most of the information was obtained by us, the soldiers on the ground. We're talking about an incredibly complicated spaces that only a terrorist organization with such a twisted terrorist mind could produce. And I'm talking about the Gaza Strip. It's a sick psychological warfare Hamas is fighting, and they prepared for this war for years, above and below the ground, very much below the ground, in huge tunnel systems and in hospitals, kindergartens, and buildings of the United Nations organization. So then we got to Phase 3 of the war, when the IDF withdrew from certain offensive areas, while at the same time continuing to fight the war from the ground and from the air. After that, the IDF released some reservists to return to their civilian lives, and that included me. I was so relieved and happy to be able to return to my beloved family. Unless Hamas's military infrastructure and resources are completely destroyed, the story of the place I'm standing in, Kfar Aza, and similar ones from the other kibbutzim around this region will only be the beginning. Not only that, but not destroying Hamas would actually create legitimacy for another October 7. Now we get to the part everyone would like to know about. Prime Minister Netanyahu recently ordered a ground campaign in the last stronghold of power in the southern part of Gaza, Rafah, which the IDF has not yet entered. This is the last location that Hamas still controls. Hamas operates from Rafah, and that's also where the Israeli hostages most likely are kept. It's been more than 2 months since we started hearing about this, and the announcement provoked many international reactions. Without a ground operation in Rafah, the IDF won't be able to dismantle this terrorist organization, Hamas. Let me tell you a bit about Rafah. Why is it a significant focus for Hamas, and how does it continue to function during the war? What's going on in that city? Rafah is the southernmost city in the Gaza Strip and currently contains about 1.3 million Palestinians, most of which have been displaced since the fighting began. Before that, about 300,000 people lived in that city. So we're talking about a significant amount of population that would have to be protected in a potential ground operation. According to estimates, there are 2 battalions still operational all over the Gaza Strip, operating guerrilla style. There are 4 more Hamas battalions in Rafah. In total, according to the Israeli Defense Minister, Yoav Gallant, Hamas had 24 battalions in the Gaza Strip, of which the IDF has so far dismantled 19. There's another reason Rafah is so important to Hamas. Every day, about 178 trucks pass through the Rafah crossing daily into the Gaza Strip. Before the war, about 500 trucks with goods and about 108 trucks entered the Strip every day. During the war, humanitarian aid has been unstable, and Hamas wants to make sure they control whatever does in fact make it through into the Gaza Strip, since they steal it anyway. It is important to remember that before the war, Rafah was characterized by a high population density, a high unemployment rate, a housing shortage, on top of unstable water supply. Rafah is also situated on the border with Egypt to the south, with a large tunnel system underneath. So it's perfect for smuggling weapons for war and other resources like vehicles and animals. This is why Rafah is such a key city for Hamas. Without control of Rafah, Hamas's oxygen pipe to the outside world, which relies on smuggling, is cut off. Before proceeding with any operation in Rafah, Israel will have to provide some kind of plan for tending to the multitudes of refugees who fled there when the war started further north in the Gaza Strip. The international community is very concerned about Israel entering Rafah and is warning of devastating consequences. Egypt is very worried about a mass escape of refugees into Sinai, so they built a wall to try and prevent it. There is also a heavy pressure from the United States demanding to see a complete and viable plan for the safe evacuation of the refugees before any ground operation moves forward. So everyone is arguing about what might be important in this situation. It's the residents of Gaza who live under the terror of Hamas, and everyone has an opinion about the potential danger to them in the event of a ground invasion. But no one is arguing about the fact that the IDF should go in and eliminate Hamas. And that's what matters, that the day after this war, Hamas no longer exists. There will be peace for Israel, and the residents who were evacuated from their homes in their own country will be able to return to their houses in the Israeli communities surrounding the Gaza Strip. This is what brings me back to where I'm walking now. This is where it all started that day on October 7th. We, the people of Israel, are currently busy rebuilding and looking ahead, never forgetting the heavy loss and the trauma to Israeli lives, but also remembering to look ahead to the future and restore our lives. Only by strengthening the Israeli communities in the Gaza periphery and rehabilitating the region, our victory over Hamas will be complete. So we understood what is happening in the Gaza Strip, and particularly in Rafah. It's a very complicated situation, and I want to urge you to pray. Pray for wisdom for the leaders that are involved in making these decisions, the Israeli leaders, the American leaders, and the international community. They definitely need your help. Please pray for the Israeli hostages to be released and reunited with their loved ones. Please pray for the Palestinian people that are being used as human shields to have a better leadership than Hamas. Please pray for the IDF to win this war against a terrorist organization. And most importantly, please join us in prayer for the peace of Jerusalem.